Those of you who have watched my channel for a very, very long time will know that I have a severe grudge against the planet Eve. I really don't know why, it's just that whenever I try to launch a mission there, it always goes wrong to some extent. I've had crafts blow up, I've had landers fail upon actually touching down on the surface, me being incompetent and not putting batteries on the actual craft itself. A range of issues, basically. And I've been trying for the past few years to actually try and rectify this error and actually make a mission be successful en route to Eve. The 2014 Evian base failed miserably because I couldn't figure out a way to actually attach the base together at the time. Of course, I was a much less experienced player then than I was now. But subsequent attempts to Eve have either failed or have succeeded to some extent but have been unmanned. This is my first attempt, or at least hopefully successful attempt, at a manned mission to Eve. Now, Eve is a much larger planet than Kerbin. I think it's roughly 100 kilometers wider in terms of its radius when compared to Kerbin. And obviously its gravity is a lot stronger as well, almost twice that of Kerbin. So I'm actually bringing along a rover as the spacecraft so we can have a bit of a drive about when we're on the surface. You can see Sherzan and Linzema, I forget their names, I'll probably put them in the opening titles or something. But they're leaving everything behind on Kerbin for the moment. This mission is a one-way. We may go back and rescue them in the future, sort of Junior Horizon style, the last episode of which is currently in the works, might I add. Should be out in the next month or two, I hope. Hopefully I can get out sooner, it depends. But anyway, back to the mission at hand here. We're going to try and land, we're just going to try and aim for land on Eve here. And we're going to just drive about, see what we can see, because Eve has some really interesting geological features that are actually quite interesting to look at once you're actually on the ground. Because you can't really see them in orbit when you have the stock visual enhancements mod, like I have here, installed because of the sheer thickness of the cloud and haze that it adds. Don't get me wrong, it looks absolutely beautiful, especially from orbit, but when you're actually trying to find like pretty features on the surface, such as lakes, such as mountains, you're not going to be able to see them as easily because of the sheer thickness of the fog. But there's always been something about the planet of Eve that it's intrigued me somewhat. It's kind of like Titan in the real solar system type of deal, with this thick haze covering the surface that we can only really see via radar and some blurry images from Huygens taken in 2005. It's a very, very interesting world, and it's one that's kind of overlooked due to its sheer difficulty to actually land on and return. Most missions to Eve usually consist of just landing on there or setting up a base and not really doing much surface exploration just because of the gravity and the dangers that provides. I want to try and sort of delve into this a little bit, theorize a little bit as to what Eve is. Obviously, there is the rumor that's come about from the Kerbal Space Program community that the seas on Eve are made of rocket fuel or explodium or whatever they've decided to call it now with the biomes. And obviously, I want to try and theorize what the actual surface is made of. Why is Eve so purple? Because I'm no chemist. Don't get me wrong, I am terrible at chemistry. I got a B at GCSE, and that's about it. Because obviously, I know this is a video game, and stuff is nowhere near as, well, it isn't as real because it's a video game. But it's fun to theorize these sorts of things, and so I've always sort of thought that the purple colour of Eve comes from iodide salts, or something to do with iodine. Like I say, I'm probably wrong on so many levels by that, but if there are any chemists, do tell me in the comments down below if I do have like any weights for that theory, or if it's just complete no, if you're cringing right now, because I genuinely want to know, because if we gather up some kind of scientific basis of this about this planet, then, I don't know, it just seems rather cool to me. But as you can see, we have survived re-entry. It was quite an aggressive re-entry, actually, into Eve's atmosphere, but those heat shields did their job, and we're now descending into the haze, and at this point, I really wasn't sure if we were over land or not, but then we got through the cloud layer, and you could see we were in the mountainous region of Eve. These are some of the tallest mountains on Eve, for that matter, and I thought we were going to come down on an actual slope, but we sort of landed on a kind of plateau in the middle of this mountainous region. Little tip, if you are going to launch a mission that returns from Eve, these mountains are the best places to actually do that from, because they extend so high into Eve's atmosphere, some of them can be up to like, I think 14 kilometers in height, and that's a really good place to actually launch from because of course the atmosphere is thinner. So of course we've touched down, so the next port of call is to plant a flag and pose for publicity shots, because, at least in the near future anyway, these two aren't actually getting home. We may launch a rescue mission in the future, but as you guys know, my skill, especially from lifting off the surface of Eve, is terrible. So the chance of these guys actually getting rescued is zilch. But this is part of my larger project for 2017, and that is to land at least one Kerbal on every single planet in the Kerbal system. I did have a similar plan for last year, but sadly I ran out of time due to my sheer amount of projects. And who knows, that might happen this year as well, because quite frankly, I'm in the middle of so much stuff. I don't know how I've managed to find the time to actually even make this video. I'm currently in the middle of doing university interviews. I had one on Friday. I've got another one this Thursday, which is going to be fun, and which I think are going alright, but at the moment it's too early to tell before I can say anything for certain. But as you can see here, we're going to start to drive down the Eve Mountains here. We're going to see if we can make our way to one of the coasts. Now, it is a rather long drive to the coast. I think I did speed the drive up somewhat. This is just sort of setting off, driving away from the flag. I think I did in total in this drive about 20 kilometers. I did put the flag down not only to mark the fact that we've been here in case these Kerbals get killed for some reason, but I also put the flag down in order to judge distance. If you press F4, you can obviously see the target markers. Of course, I completely forgot until we were already about 8 kilometers away. But I actually put it down to see how far we could actually drive. On this at the moment, we ended up going down to the bottom of this mountain, driving off the plateau down to the bottom of the mountain, and I think we ended up turning left and going round, because I did do a quick check of the actual map view, and I saw that that was probably the quickest way to find an ocean, because if I went to the right and went down up some slightly steeper hills, it would have meant basically driving across the entire continent rather than just a significant portion of one, which is something I don't want to do. Eve is one of those worlds that's kind of, it's got a lot of sort of liquid on its surface, but then it's broken up by huge, vast pieces of land. It's not like Lathe, where it's mostly a water world with some tiny little desert islands in the middle of it. No, this is one hell of a planet, really, if you think about it. Like I say, it is larger than Kerbin. And it's a challenge to actually move around, because obviously your Kerbals can't jump. It was actually a massive ordeal to try and get these guys back into the rover itself, because I initially thought that we wouldn't be able to, but then I remembered, oh yeah, Kerbal Climber exists, and as you saw before, I actually managed to put them into the rover. Another teething issue I found with this particular rover, as you can see here, it kept running out of charge. I did put 4 RTGs on the back, which should have been fine for power, I think. But I don't know whether it's the way I had the batteries or whatever, or if I just didn't simply have enough power. I just underestimated how much power I actually need. But we had to stop for power quite a lot, especially with all these hills. Despite me limiting the motors and what have you, and playing around with the brakes and all sort of stuff like that, we did have to improvise a little bit when going up these hills, but we managed it fine in the end. That's just one of the main things that I would have improved on this mission in the next, if I were to do it again. Obviously, I would put more batteries or more RTGs or both on this rover to actually make sure that it had a larger range. Better yet, I could have used a fuel cell. Fuel cells seem to be pretty good at actually making power. I've never really used them though, because I don't like the concept of them using my fuel. You guys know that I use fuel in terms of engines very, very liberally. I'm not the most efficient Kerbal Space Program player ever, and so the fact that I need basically every drop of fuel I can get, it kind of doesn't help when I have something draining my fuel for electrical resources. But you can see here we've bumped this up to, I think, 8 times or 16 times normal speed now. We're just going to drive as fast as we can and stop where possible because it can't get up an incline. This was very annoying, having to stop for electricity every now and then. But this was basically it. The terrain sort of leveled out and we sort of kept on going here, which is pretty good. This mission was definitely a big success for me, and hopefully we can get more like this in the future. And I think that's pretty much going to round it off for this episode, guys. A few quick things before I go. Firstly, KSP News is coming back. I don't know if you saw the trailer at the end of the last video. And Song of the Week is Black Treacle by the Arctic Monkeys. So guys, I will see you in the next episode, whatever that might be it KSP News or whatever. But I'll see you next time. This is Brad signing out, and as always, peace out.